go through the three-step standard operating procedures for the new fund. It is very important for our appointed independent consultants and project partner to follow and to abide by the SOP, so as to ensure the success of the engagement to implement this funding program for the recipient country. Step 1 is the application. This involves understanding of the new fund, letter of offer and application form signed by the government officials. Step 2, processing of the application. This involves telecommunications between the asset depositor and the central bank governor, due diligence, identity of the asset depositor, source of funds, and the final contract to be signed by the central bank governor. Step 3 would be the deployment of the new fund. Allow me go into details for each step. Step number 1, application. GCD appointed consultants will be presenting and explaining in details on the new fund program to the President, Prime Minister, Finance Minister, and a central bank governor. After clear comprehension of the new fund from the presentation and the details information provided, once the government authority is acceptable to the new fund program and wanted to proceed to the next step by the signing back the letter of offer and the application form. For your information, the government authority includes President, Finance Minister, CBG, or any entities that exercise the executive and administrative functions and rights pertaining to the national monetary policy. Together with the central bank's official business card, both signed documents returned to Green City developers via secure encrypted email. By the way, the letter of offer and application form both are non-legally binding, and the documents carry no legal implications until the final contract has been signed. This is a mere expression of interest on behalf of the government of the country to find out more about the new fund program, and they're happy to proceed to the next step of the SOP. Step 2. Upon receiving the signed documents and also the official business card of the central bank governor, our group CEO Mr. Billy Lee and Mr. Mark Wong, the compliance director of the asset depositor, will be initiating phone calls to the CBG. These are important telecommunications from which key information about the asset depositor and the new fund program will be disclosed. A follow-up phone call by the AD's U.S. top officer may also take place. As the signatory of the final contract, CBG is requested to provide copy of passport or national ID. After the application approval, the final contract will be prepared and emailed to CBG within 30 to 60 working days. Following CBG's review and acceptance of the final contract, CBG will sign and return the final contract to AD via secured email. That brings us to step number 3, the deployment of the new fund. Upon receiving the signed final contract from the central bank governor, AD will provide the documentation of the foreign assets, the gold-backed government bond, to the International Monetary Authority for approval. Upon approval, the proof of funds of the government bond will be provided to the central bank governor. Thereafter, in Phase 1, AD will provide the first tranche of government bonds in the name of recipient country central bank, issued by HSBC Hong Kong, of estimated value of $200 million as the foreign reserves of the central bank. Henceforth, the initial new fund of $3 billion M1 money supply would be created. $2 billion will be blocked in the central bank, only to be used to activate a private bonds trade program. Over 40 weeks, the total projected revenue from the private bonds trade program is estimated at $8 billion. In summary of the new fund, Phase 1, the AD will provide the first tranche of foreign assets with the estimated value of $200 million into the central bank of the recipient country. With the foreign reserves of $200 million, the central bank of the recipient country is able to leverage on the money multiplier of 15 times to create the initial new fund of $3 billion in the central bank electronic ledger. Out of this initial new fund of $3 billion, 33% or $1 billion will be used for immediate project funding for the recipient country. 67% of the initial new fund, or $2 billion, will be blocked in the central bank, only to activate the private bonds trade program. From the Tier 1 bonds trade platform, AD will provide 10% or $200 million as a weekly projected revenue back to the central bank of the recipient country. These weekly projected revenue can be used immediately to fund local social economic development projects. Over 40 weeks, the total projected revenue from the private bonds trade program is estimated at $8 billion, which will be utilized for the recipient country social economy development projects over 3 to 5 years period. Every country do have national debt. We have good news here. The new fund grant will be able to assist the recipient country to pay off some of the national debt. How does it work? Once part of the yearly national budget of a sector has been fully funded by the new fund, there will be budget surplus available to pay off the national debt. After phase 1 of new fund running and operating for 3 to 4 months, AD will provide second tranche of government bonds of $400 million using the same formulation to create a total of $16 billion new fund in phase 2. In phase 3, using the same calculation, formulation of new fund and with the same foreign asset value of $400 million provided by AD, $16 billion will be accumulation after 40 weeks. After completed the 3 phases, the recipient country will have a total of $40 billion of new fund for their social economy development projects.